Bad boys, bad boys. What are you going to do when we come for you? Here on The Rule of Law, Randy Kelton, Eddie Craig, and Deborah Stevens.
I was researching some stuff on red light cameras along with a couple other things I've been working on this week. And turns out that back in 2008 there was a lawsuit filed against the red light camera companies that operate these red light cameras. The basis of that lawsuit was that an actual attorney was sent one of these red light camera tickets, and he challenged it. The company threatened him with going to the credit agencies and reporting on his credit because he wouldn't pay the ticket. So he filed suit against them. Turns out that these companies are subject to Occupations Code, Section 1702.101, Investigations Company License Required. And it specifically says, unless the person holds a license as an investigations company, a person may not, 1, act as an investigations company, 2, offer to perform the services of an investigations company, or 3, engage in business activity for which a license is required under this chapter. That's exactly what these red light camera companies fall under. It's an Occupations Code requirement that they have this investigator's license. They don't have it. They got sued and they lost. Now, it turns out that these red light camera companies may also be in direct violation of a little-known federal law called the Lanham Act. The Lanham Act specifically prohibits anyone from using the likeness or likeness of property belonging to anyone else without their explicit consent for the purpose of generating revenue. A red light camera ticket captures an image of you and your property when it's going down the road. They use that image to facilitate the collection of money and to profit from that collection and the use of that photograph or that video or any of the other materials they use when they capture your image. And it turns out that since they don't have your express permission, they're very likely in violation of the Lanham Act. And, Randy, that is that letter I sent you through Skype a while ago to take a look at that I've drafted up regarding that issue. So in your leisure time, if and when you find any, take a look at that and let me know what you think.
Leisure and time in my life are contradictions of terms. They don't exist together.
Well, that's why I said it was such a smile, see.
But I would very much like to look. That is an interesting statute. It leaves the red light camera issue not in para materia with existing law.
Correct.
The Lanham Act.
Yep. But that is the general gist of what I had to present, short, sweet, and to the point.
More Texans come into personal contact with municipal courts than all other Texas courts combined. Whether they are jurors, witnesses, or defendants, the public impression of the entire Texas judicial system is largely dependent upon their experience in municipal court.
The municipal court, like all courts, is governed by the rule of law by and for the people of the state of Texas.
One of the most common intrusions into the independence of the court is in the imposition of quotas or evaluation of the court based on revenue generation. Section 720.002 of the Texas Transportation Code prohibits the use of citation or income quotas to evaluate, promote, compensate, or discipline an officer or municipal judge. The creation or use of such a plan is grounds for removal of the city official that promulgates it.
But when you look at some of the contracts the 5I team pulled, you may wonder whether cities want you to run the red and get busted by the camera cops.
Is it a safety tool, or a moneymaker? Arizona State Senator Dean Martin is not convinced the cameras are in place to keep our streets safe.
That it's the only solution cities are turning to, and they're not trying to think outside the box.
When you get a ticket, you not only pay the city, you're also funding private business. ACS, formerly known as Lockheed Martin IMS, is the company who installs many Valley cameras. As you might guess, private companies want to be sure they get their money.
The prosecution's arguments have not persuaded the court to change its ruling.
It may have led to abuse in San Diego, where a judge dismissed hundreds of red light tickets. The San Diego court based its decision on allegations that some yellow lights were shortened to catch more offenders. Many experts believe longer yellows make it easier for you to stop, keeping you from a serious accident. But the city of Mesa ran into problems when traffic engineers made a safety change to decrease violations. Mesa lengthened some yellow light times, and it dropped violations below a quota they agreed to at each intersection of 18 violations per day.
You would think fewer violations would be good news. Good news for drivers, good news for the city, and above all, safer streets. But one party was not happy.
According to this document obtained by the 5I team, Lockheed Martin took issue, pointing out severe effects to its contract, essentially saying they weren't making money on the cameras. It led to a renegotiation, which now gives the camera vendor as much as $73 per ticket.
Yeah, in fact, Judge Craig Smith said it was his opinion that the city of Dallas had privatized part of its responsibility by contracting with ACS for a red light camera system.
They don't get the evidence until it passes through ACS review.
The only review.
Right? In the 192nd court, the issue is not whether red light cameras work, but should ACS Incorporated carry out the evidence gathering against drivers without having a private investigation occupational license from the state.
ACS and the contract itself, which is part of plaintiff's evidence and is part of defendant's evidence, merely sold a red light enforcement system to the city of Dallas.
While attorneys for ACS argued Dallas actually owns and operates the system, lawyer Lloyd Ward, representing his wife Amanda, whose car was photographed going through an intersection against the light, read part of the city's contract with ACS in court.
It says the city is granted a license only to use the software on this. The city didn't buy this equipment.
ACS attorneys argue Texas DPS has issued an opinion letter that red light camera vendors are not required to have a private investigator license. Judge Smith was not impressed.
I think ACS is bound by this occupational code and by the requirements of the contract.
ACS attorneys asked the judge to change the wording of his ruling until a final court date comes to pass, saying as it stands now means negative publicity for their client. Judge Smith stood up in court to emphasize his position.
I think you're operating this without a license that you're required to have.
Judge Smith said attorneys for ACS had presented nothing to cause him to change his ruling.
The ACLU of Texas is saying if you feel you have a basis for a challenge, put the proof of burden back on the city. Take it to them and tell them to prove you were behind the wheel.
Russell says these red light cameras, no matter what city they are in, are less about public safety and more about making money.
If they start losing income and shut down their programs, then we'll know for sure that this was about a cash cow, this was about revenue, and this was not about public safety.
She claims some cities are abandoning or reducing their red light camera programs because they aren't making the money they were supposed to make and are increasing rear-end collisions.